Hey Wargamers, so today Games Workshop released a brand new set of rules to go along with the brand new models for the Vespid Stingwing straight out of the Hivestrom box. And I gotta tell you, I'm really excited about these models. I'm really excited about these rules because Vespid have been so neglected for so long, and it looks like Games Workshop is giving them at least a little bit of attention here in 40K as well as Kill Team. So with the new rule set coming out, let's take a look and see what's changed and how it might affect your use of Vespid on the tabletop. So, starting off with the basic profile here, we have movement 12, toughness 4, 4 up save, 1 wound, 7 leadership, and 1 OC. That is exactly the same as it was before. Yes, so we're starting off with something that didn't change at all, but that's okay, right? There's plenty of other stuff to come along the corner, so don't worry. Some of the things that did change are the ranged weapons. So you have your neutron blaster. That's exactly the same as before. Assault, range 18, 2 attacks, BS4, 5 strength, minus 2 AP, 2 damage. That's still a great weapon for dealing with marine equivalents. It can move a lot of bodies that way. But the new additions are those special weapons that we saw in the Kill Team box. So the Neutron Grenade Launcher, the Neutron Rail Rifle, and the Tau Flamer all are represented here in 40K, as well as having their representation in Kill Team, which is a very good sign. So each of these is its own weapon and does some pretty interesting stuff. So the grenade launcher, anti-infantry 3-up blast. So we have some pretty good ability to be moving some infantry models here regardless of their toughness or defensive profile. We got range 18, D6 attacks, BS 4-up, strength 4, minus 1 AP, and 2 damage. So again, that strength 4 isn't going to matter so much with the anti-infantry, but minus 1 AP, 2 damage, that's a really solid profile for moving most infantry bodies. So that is a pretty useful weapon, and the fact that it's D6 and blast means you're going to be able to move through some of the larger units as well. So that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to using. The Neutron Rail Rifle is basically a rail rifle here. We got devastating wounds, 30-inch range, 1 attack, 4 up BS, strength 10, minus 4 AP, 3 damage. Yeah, it's a rail rifle. It's going to move a model, and yeah, it's going to do some damage. That's great, but it is still just one shot, right? And you got a 50-50 chance of missing it. So take that for what it's worth. The Tau Flamer ignores cover, torrent, range 12, D6 attack, strength 4, 1 damage. Yeah, it's a flamer. It's a flamer on some bugs. Moths to the flame, if you will. That'd actually be a cool name for like a list that's just a bunch of Vespid with flamers. Although you'd only get 3. For melee weapons, we have the Stingwing Claws, 1 attack, weapon skill 4 up, strength 4, minus 1 AP, 1 damage. That's also the same. I was hoping that maybe we would see some expansion of this to be a little bit beefier in close combat, because in earlier versions of the lore, in things like the Dawn of War games, they actually have these crystalline claws that they can use for digging into, burrowing into rock faces and stuff like that. And that's represented here by the minus 1 AP, but I had hopes that maybe they would be a little bit beefier, but no, it's exactly the same. As far as abilities go, we still have Deep Strike, and we still have Airborne Agility, but Airborne Agility has changed to activate at the end of your opponent's turn as opposed to the end of your movement phase. And we'll talk in a minute about why that's a big deal, but it is. For War Gear abilities, if you bring an Oversight Drone, you have a once per battle ability to ignore cover. Again, the Oversight Drone, just a token, you don't actually need to use it, but it is represented with rules here, and it does give you ignore cover, which will blend pretty nicely with things like the neutron grenade launcher or your neutron blasters, or just anything. Ignore cover is always good, right? So almost always good. So that's a nice little one-off thing here. We can take either 5 or 10 models. We can take 5 models at 65 points, exactly what they are right now, and we can take 10 models at 130 points, which is exactly double that, right? So it's a linear scaling. There's nothing like the broadsides where you have to pay more to get more or anything like that. 65 points for 5 models, just like before. And if you bring 10 models, then you get access to these special weapons, including the Oversight Drone. But if you only take 5, you get nothing. You get none of that. You get your standard Vespid 5-man unit with neutron blasters only. So, what does this all mean? Basically, it means you just have more possibilities for the same price, right? They give you the same option. If you want to have that 5-man unit at 65 points, use them to bounce around the board, grab objectives, do actions, things like that. You can still do that for basically exactly the same as it was. They just are giving you more options, right? The neutron blaster is the same, the profile is the same. The only thing that has changed for that 5-man unit is the airborne agility roll. And like I said, it makes it so that you only stay until the end of your opponent's turn as opposed to having to wait for your movement phase. So basically, that is a big deal because for one, it moves them to be more in line with other abilities for other units in the game, which is a nice quality of life, clarity thing that everyone's going to be on the same page. Great. But it also allows for more dynamic movement. Let's say I go first, I have my Vespid on the board, my opponent goes, then I can pull them up right away and drop them again on my next turn as opposed to having to wait for that second turn to actually play out before I can pull them back up. So this allows me to move them around much more frequently, and that's often not a big deal because there's generally not a cost to that because a lot of the actions that I might have them do, objectives I might have them grab, things like that, that's going to be scored before I would want them to be pulled up anyway. So that's going to be scored on my opponent's turn or completed on my opponent's turn or something like that, right? So this gives me a lot more flexibility. I can pick them up and down much more frequently, and that means that they have more dynamic play. They have more opportunities to grab objectives, contribute to the gameplay as opposed to a somewhat more sluggish movement with having to wait for my next turn to pull up. So that's a nice change, I think, and one that will give you more possibilities again for this unit. The special weapons, though, raise an interesting trade-off, right? Basically, the rail rifle, the grenade launcher, both seem pretty useful. If you didn't have any other considerations, I'd say yeah, take those because they seem like they could move some models and add a little bit of extra utility to this already pretty utility-based unit. So that seems good. And they both can be good against bigger targets too, right? The rail rifle has the AP, it has devastating wounds. That's great. The grenade launcher has anti-infantry, and so it can move some models pretty easily that way as well. So you have some pretty good options here. The flamer, not so much, doesn't seem as appealing. For one thing, it's shorter range, and a lot of times I'm using Vespid in a pretty cagey way where they're either not going to want to be in range to use a flamer or not necessarily have a reason to. So that is less attractive to me. The other two weapons, though, I think are pretty good shoe-ins for most applications. However, in order to get access to those, you have to have the 10-man unit, right? And that means you're paying twice the price for potentially the same utility. If you just need something to perform an action or grab an objective or be in a quarter of the board, you don't need a 10-man unit to do that. If a 5-man unit would do just as well, and so that is a cost, right? So if that's really what your objective is, and often that's been my priority with Vespid is just to have something to basically be a unit that can move around, then you're not going to bring the 10-man unit. You're not going to get access to those special weapons, and so it doesn't matter. And so you're no worse off. You're no worse off with the update, but you're also not getting anything cool alongside that, which is a little bit of a bummer, right? If you want to bring that 10-man unit, I think there is something potentially useful here, right? Like, this 10-man unit with these special weapons could do more than just be just be a group of bodies. You could have a little bit more oomph here, a little bit more offensive ability. And so maybe we have to recontextualize how we use Vespid to be more than just a utility piece and more of a mover than that. Now, overall, who knows what that means for gameplay. Again, I think probably the initial reaction is to just stick with the 5-man. But the 10-man seems fun. It seems worth trying out and seeing if you can get something to work a little differently using that larger unit. They are going to be harder to place because there's more models, but you know, you have a bigger footprint, and maybe you can do something with that. Maybe they're better at screening too, right? I mean, with being 10-man, they are going to be better at screening. So there's that. You can drop them down in order to like prevent opponent from charging, right? That's one application of their aerial or airborne agility ability. Is that airborne agility ability? That's a mouthful. Is you could use these is really effective, like kind of like emergency button. I need to screen this unit of Thunderwolves. I need to screen this other unit from getting to this objective or whatever. You can drop these guys down to do that, which is nice. And having a 10-man unit is going to make them more effective at doing that and keep them on the board longer. Overall, we see almost everything from the Kill Team box represented with rules here. The only thing we don't see represented is the stealth variant, and it makes sense. Like that just seems like a very Kill Teamy thing. It doesn't necessarily make sense that would have a manifestation in 40k rules. So I'm totally cool with that not being a thing. But they've done a really good job of representing the different weapon loadouts, with representing the oversight drone in ways that I wasn't expecting. And so overall, I'm very happy with this rule set. Like I said, I think it opens up more gameplay options. And if you don't want to take them, you don't have to. You can still use them in the way that you were using them before. So overall, very positive response to this. I hope this works out well. Again, fantastic models. I'm going to be grabbing hopefully two units of these guys and playing with them as soon as possible. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited about these changes? Do you wish you would have seen something different? Either way, let's have a conversation about it. And as always, happy wargaming. Watching. If you stuck around to this point in the video, maybe you want to join our Discord community as well. There's a link in the description below. Special thanks to all my supporters over on Patreon, but especially the folks that you see on your screen now. If you want to help make more invasive wargaming videos, consider joining our community over there as well.